Hey, what's up,
Hey.
everybody? Long time no see.
Yes, yes. It feels like it's been a long time. When
Yeah.
was the last time? Were we not on last week?
No, we were not on last week.
Oh,
Actually, no.
we were
Last week,
not on last week.
we were like
Traveling.
we were traveling to
Yes.
our undisclosed location. So
Yeah. Okay.
not on last week.
Mhm.
And so it feels like it's been a really, really long time.
Mhm.
And so we have missed you all as usual, but I must say I'd do it again next week. I think I would. So
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, if you're joining us for the first time, welcome to the Marriage Shop. He's Mike, I'm Wendy, and we're here most Mondays at 7 o'clock p.m. And I think that's Eastern time. So we don't have to say daylight or standard. It's just
Eastern because
Yeah.
the truth is some of y'all don't know where this daylight or standard. And why would you? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
When I'm president, I'll change all this.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway.
So, but it's good to be back and we missed you. And so we are continuing to hear and receive some great messages from those of you that have purchased our book, that have read the book and want to share the book with others. It is still available on Amazon. You can also get it through our Facebook page, which takes you to, it's a link to the Amazon page. You can purchase the book. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, we wrote a book. This is the title. Let me see, get it right.
Boom.
When.
Wow, look at that. That was in unison. We didn't practice that.
So a story of marriage, and it is a story of our marriage, and we are blessed and privileged and honored to be able to share it with you. So you may also notice after this banner goes away that we are rocking our brand new hot off the press the Marriage Shop t-shirt. So the official The Marriage Shop t-shirt. Mm-hmm. And you can also get that through the Facebook page. And if you click on that link, it'll take you to the Marriage Shop.
Yeah. It will, like the actual Marriage Shop where there's stuff that you can purchase. And so, so we rolled out a few different t-shirts, some mugs. There'll be some other things coming out, but just really kind of get some things started. Yeah.
Yep.
No doubt.
So you asked for it and we delivered finally. So hopefully we'll get to see some pictures of you guys either reading the book or the book when you have it, or if you have the book and you haven't joined the book club just yet, that's a group that you can join on this page as well. We'd love to have you in the Win Book Club. So there are a number of ways to connect with us, but the one way that you will be able to interact with us every week live is right here. And we're glad that you're here with us right now. So if this is your first time joining us, make sure you drop that in the comments so we can make sure we say hi to you and we recognize you. I know that Antoinette Brunson is on because she was the first one in. So Antoinette Brunson, thank you for joining us. And I can't really see. Oh, Pamela Williams. Thank you for joining us. Hey, she's our official Mike and Wendy photographer here in Augusta. So if you haven't checked her out yet, please check her out. Monica Wilson Ferguson, thank you for joining us. And we had a great time. If you have seen any of our social media feeds, we've been posting pictures for the last several days, but I'm just blessed to have a husband who really this year kind of put me first, and it was awesome. So I enjoyed the time away, but it's good to be back.
And I'm trying to put Wendy first like every year. I mean, I fall short, but hey, I'm trying. And so we're just doing a few things because it's year 50. I mean, So by the way, I see Christina Janae is on, Monica Wilson Ferguson. Hey,
long time no see.
And that reminds me. So listen, tonight it's the second Monday. And so we're focusing on singles every second Monday.
Yes.
And so if there's any singles, share this with them. Like, hit them up and bring them on, because we're going to be talking about something I think it doesn't get any more relevant than this, I believe.
Yeah.
So, but until then, y'all cop that t-shirt. Anyway, so
go ahead.
I was going to say, if you read the book, and chances are, as I look at these names pop up, and some of you all have read this book. If you haven't left the review on Amazon yet, if y'all could do that for us, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We appreciate it. And, when I say that it's a little overwhelming to get some of the feedback that you all have been sharing with us, it's a lot overwhelming. I mean, we are blessed to serve in the way that we've been able to serve, into when some of that comes back and people share with you their own journeys. It just really takes on a whole new meaning. So thank you for that. April Harris, thanks for joining us.
What's going on, April Harris?
Yeah. And thank you, Antoinette, for saying that we're doing a good job. We're trying. Yeah. So, and Pamela said you were blushing.
I can't deny that. I don't even know. I don't blush. Look at me. But I mean, I don't know. But I appreciate it.
Even though our second Mondays are for singles, that's our primary focus. So the topics we'll be talking about are really kind of targeted for singles, but that doesn't mean that nobody else can join us on those second Mondays. I mean, essentially anything that we talk about in the Marriage Shop is for everyone.
That's right.
But second Mondays are specifically for singles.
But as we've said before, there are going to be things that relate to you in your marriage, or to people or to your children, or to your whatever, right? Or in your marriage at some point. So this particular one, if you're already married, this particular ship has already sailed. But we want y'all to share it, tag people or whatever, because I think ultimately when we get to where we're getting at, we don't exactly know where this will end up. But I think that it may not be what you might expect, because I think some of you all have very strong opinions either way on this issue of whether or not you live with someone before you get married to them, or whether or not you live with someone as a couple at all in an unmarried state. We know for a fact some of y'all have done it. Some of us, we've done that. Some of you are in that situation right now. Some of you are kind of contemplating whether or not to do it. And so there are people with some very strong opinions about this. And so in a way, I almost want to have a conversation about those opinions. Why are they so strong? What's wrong with it? What's right about it? I'm kind of interested in where y'all are on that, because, everybody has an opinion, but on this particular issue and most, we don't stand in a place of like, this is what you have to do. Judgment. In fact, we're in somewhat disagreement on what our situation actually was prior to marriage. If you've heard us talk about this at all, if you've read about it, like what we wrote about it, whatever, there's a little bit of disagreement. I mean, I don't know why there's disagreement. To me, it's so clear. But yeah, there's some.
There's disagreement because one of us is in denial.
I know what this is. It seems like,
that's what it comes down to.
It seems like you might be talking about me.
But what we're talking about specifically, because you were talking kind of fast when you were running through that.
Yeah.
What are we talking about specifically?
We're talking about your living arrangements prior to marriage, right? Is it okay or is it not okay? Are you shacking up? Are you just giving it a test run?
Good. So the picture that I posted was posted by a friend of ours whose daughter kind of gave her this whole timeline for when she can expect to have grandchildren. And I thought it was pretty cool in the way that she laid it out. But the one thing that stood out to us that we wanted to talk about tonight was that little piece, because in it, she had that she would meet and find the one, date for a little bit, move in together, continue dating,
like for a year,
then get engaged.
I think it was like moving together for a year. It was specified a year plus. And I can't say I've heard people talk about it. I don't know how much I've heard a time frame attached to it. Certainly not a written plan about how that might go. And so I'm like, well, isn't that interesting?
But I thought it was good. I mean,
Yeah.
and so it indicates that in some ways we're in a different time, that things kind of change. But then in other ways, I think it just depends on, what becomes the norm in your family, in your circle. And, so maybe the idea that you don't live together before marriage is dated. I don't know.
I mean, maybe. So, and we're at, okay. And so before you start responding on this, or before you hold back, we just want to make it clear, like, we will not take your response necessarily as your, like, what you're doing or have done or whatever, unless you just want to put it out there in that way. What I'm saying is, I think that some people may hesitate to respond, right? Based on, well, some might. Some are just going to go ahead and go all in. Yeah. So that's kind of what we want you to do. But this is not about like judging your situation. We just want to kind of get your ideas and opinions about what this really is all about. Because there's a lot to do about, living together before marriage. It's a big thing. And people even, they will make announcements about, like, we're living together. And it's just like, it's like, that is marriage for some people, right? I mean, they kind of they announce it on that level, or they talk about it on that level. There are some parents or some people who will say no, like, absolutely not, don't do that.
Right.
And there's some people who are like, are you crazy? There is zero chance you should be living with this person for the rest of your life if you can't go and drive this thing around the block a little bit and see how it is to live with this person, right?
Yep.
And so Christine Janae is in there early with an unequivocal, I think it's super unwise to live with someone before you marry them on every level.
Wow. Thank
Boom.
You for that.
She is just like, bam.
Yep.
So what y'all got to say to get Christina Janae on this, right? Because this is very important. I think that what we see around us is a greater tendency, not only for people to live together, because people have like lived together, since way back in the day.
Yeah.
Right. It's just that now it's not, it becomes more of a thing. It's more of a norm. Right. So maybe back in the day you get caught living with somebody. It's just like, we're not living together. Right. And so it's like, it felt more unacceptable. And now society wise, it's more, not only is it more acceptable, some people kind of take that on as their state of being.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and some people even advise people to do it. Right. You mentioned, is it a test run? Some people even, when they're giving guidance, they might even say, hey, you should maybe live with this person for a little while so that you get an idea of whether or not you can live with them. So there are a lot of different ways to come at this, but we're curious to know how you all are going to come at it. So drop those comments in the chat. So Christina went on to say, number one, if you're really trying to abstain from sex before marriage, no way you do it living with constant temptation. Yes, you're right. What? You're right.
Christina Janae,
right in there where we were talking
pump
about
your
earlier.
Brakes a little bit. You're getting a little ahead of my conversation here. We're trying to have, but
yeah, that's good.
Right, because if you look in the Bible, right, which is what we try to base a lot of our perspective on, you won't find the "don't live with anybody" scripture. I don't think. Right.
Yeah. Well, but one could argue that, really in terms of time, right? So there's this whole school of thought that says the way that they mitigated that was that they married young, right? That they married the young women off like as soon as they become young women. And so there was no opportunity to be like a young in your 20s person unmarried.
Yeah.
So just throwing that in there.
Yeah. Well, right. And so notwithstanding that age thing, it's like, okay, what's the big deal, right? In terms, this is a question I could imagine someone saying, because it's not quite my question, but I can ask that. What's the big deal, right? Yeah. Where does it say I can't do that? People like to go there, right?
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
People do like to go there.
But I was going to foreshadow that, but Christina Janae just kind of jumped right in there and like, raw. So I got to go. If it's sitting there, I can't go. I got to go there, right? Because part of the issue, one issue is in fact this idea of temptation, right? Yeah. Now, I'm curious if you all believe that it's possible to live with someone constantly and not only, let's just assume that sexual attraction is going to be there. Is it possible to live with someone and not to succumb to sexual attraction?
Well, live with someone that you're in a relationship with.
Well,
because there's a difference.
Well, that's what we're talking about.
I know.
We're in a marriage shop.
I just want to be specific.
Listen, okay, we're not talking about your roommate who you may have no plans to marry. Okay, just in case. But you know what? The whole roommate thing too. I don't know. But that's another conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're talking about someone who you're in a committed relationship with, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people say we're going to get married anyway, so let's do this now, right? Is it possible to live with somebody and not to succumb to sexual attraction? Is it? I'm curious.
Well, but sexual attraction, again, so I want to be specific. It's not just sexual attraction, it's having sex.
Well, but yeah, it's having sex because you're going to be attracted. That's just an assumption.
Just saying.
I'm just succumbing is battle lost.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about. So it's, I mean, it's fine to be attracted to people. It's okay.
Yeah.
But to succumb to it, right? To have that living situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, because so a couple of things about that. So hey, Gerald Wilson, thanks for joining us.
What's up, man?
Antoinette Brunson says, I think the now generation are more apt to test the waters. We lived together for about 4 months and we knew that we wanted more. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And then, to the living together and not having sex piece, she says is possible, but hard. And then we're going to come back to Christina Janae's second point.
Because, oh my goodness, you just on fire tonight. Come on.
Yeah. But so, in sharing about our story. So we shared that we did in fact live together. You say we didn't live together because you never took a key. Living.
Right. So, Right. I mean, I came into your house and hung out sometime. I mean, for, some consecutive days.
There's consecutive days that became weeks.
I mean,
that became months.
But
and so how you define living together? I mean, you can loosely define it, but what we're talking about is if you're both together and you're sharing the same bed and you're under the same roof and you're spending more than 12 hours a day.
You're trying to put a number on.
I know. Listen, I'm just saying. If you're there and you never go back to your place.
I mean, but is it living? You could just be like, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. So whatever we did, it wasn't living okay. So here's some things like, I believe that constitute us not living together. A, I didn't have a key. B, I didn't pay any bills. C, I didn't even look at any. And I would go home intermittently.
Yeah, but now you make it sound like I was paying all the bills.
Yeah, man, so it makes you sound. I'm sitting there. That's why I slowed down. Like, man, I'm sounding like a kind of a bum. But I still, I had my spot, and we go hang out at my spot. So anyway, yeah, y'all get the point. So in this particular case, what we are talking about, we're talking about living together, right? Yeah. So how have you define that? A long-term living type situation.
Yeah.
But it gets deeper. It used to be, or I say it used to be, there are situations even now where they consider themselves on like a visit, but they don't go home. Or as Christina Janae has alluded to, they go in deeper, like buying homes together and buying cars together and paying bills together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are, listen, let's be real about it, right? There are some definite advantages to living with another person and jumping in on all those things together.
True.
There are also some distinct drawbacks to doing that as well.
What are the drawbacks?
Oh, we're going straight for the drawbacks?
Well, I mean,
Go ahead.
Yeah.
You mean, what you say?
Yeah, because you said it. I mean, you kind of listed all of the disadvantages. I mean, the advantages. What are the drawbacks?
I didn't list any advantages yet.
You did. You said as it, in terms of sharing the bills or.
I'm saying people do that.
Oh,
I mean, that's an advantage, I would say, right? Expenses and all that stuff. But no clothes in the closet, Ron Harvey. I didn't leave a stitch of clothing in the closet. I don't know where I had clothing, to be honest, in the gym bag. I have no idea. I must have. I don't know. Maybe I was just so in love, I ain't even washed my clothes.
He wore no clothes.
Oh, my. Your regularly scheduled programming. Do we have those? We got those bars. Where's our producer?
Goodness, that is so funny. And he says, "Was I your sugar mama?" You said you weren't paying bills.
I don't even.
It was a unique situation. That is so funny.
I don't even know where to go from here. Somebody
look, Christina.
Somebody get the hook.
In it. She says, "I feel like my generation specifically wants all the benefits of marriage, but not the commitment. Kids, mortgages, leases, joint accounts, literally everything except being married. It's so weird to me."
It's weird to me too, Christina.
Yeah,
Janae.
But we get comfortable, right? And so I talked about things becoming norms, right? And when enough people do it in our circles, then all of a sudden it becomes kind of the thing to do. And so in our case, a lot of things were unconventional about how we dated and the progression of how we dated. And I think that we both had we had been to church. We were, so we were aware that shacking was not the thing to do. And so I think in terms of the pressure or the belief of how wrong it was, I think it was less wrong to me than it was to you.
Yeah, that's probably fair. First of all, I want to say I've not yet recovered from the whole no coast thing, but yo, I am so distracted, y'all. I'm like, oh my God, I can't, let me get it together. Listen. Oh, that is great. What? Anyway, so, but yeah, I think you're right about that. Which is in part, the way I did this, y'all, it is, that was very intentional, but it was kind of one of those things where, there are certain things I didn't do because those are the things that to me define living together. And so if I don't do these things, then maybe I'm less wrong.
Yes.
Which, ultimately that's ridiculous, but that's what I did. And so I made it. It was like a temporary thing. Right. And I think Wendy maybe even tried to give me a key or time or two. I'm like, no, I'm good. Right. And so, but I think that it's become so normal, right? Because talk about it being less wrong for you or whatever. The question I think is, what's the impact, right?
Yeah.
What is a potential impact? Because clearly, we were together for, months, and here we are today, right? There's a lot of stuff along the way. We wouldn't have chosen it, if we could.
Yeah.
Did that have anything to do with us living together? Well, I don't know, because you get to choose one path, one way, right?
Yeah.
But there's some advantages, right? There are some financial advantages in terms of sharing expenses. There's the ability to kind of get to see this person, and I want to put that one on the shelf for a second. But there's ability to see this person in that environment, understand how they live and all that stuff, so you can determine if you want to deal with that. That right there is an interesting perspective. And so I want to come back to it. Y'all hold me to it, because we got to come back to this. I get to see you in your natural environment idea. And somehow that gives me some indication as to whether I can accept that or not. All right.
Yeah.
So, but some people consider that an advantage, but there are disadvantages.
Yeah. There are some disadvantages. And some specific ones. And I think Christina, pointed out a really good one, right? In terms of being able to withstand temptation. And the thing about that. Hey, Timothy Jones, thanks for joining us. We know we got you. We on it, man. Yeah. So Timothy Jones, Makiba Jackson, Michelle Moore Wilson, glad you're in the house. Brian McNeil, thanks for joining us. And Desiree. So glad you guys are here. About that temptation, right? So what we're not talking about tonight is premarital sex, which is another talk for another night.
I mean, are we though? I mean,
maybe
because
next month.
What's the big deal?
Well,
if it's not about the sex, right? Because otherwise, why? I mean, what's the problem?
Yeah, but premarital sex in and of itself is a whole other discussion.
I got you.
But if you're already having sex before marriage, right? And then you make a decision to live together and believe that you're not going to continue to have sex.
Well, that's just ridiculous. I don't believe I mean, come on. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm just saying. So, and when she brought up that point, it made me think about the fact that we had made a decision. We were like, okay, now that we're going to get married, we're going to abstain from having sex until Our wedding day.
I thought about that, and I'm like, well, that was stupid. I mean, it's like it's done. It's like, what are we doing, right? We were trying to. I don't know.
It was a process, right? We were trying to reset a little bit in one way. We didn't
mm-hmm.
do it.
Mm-hmm.
We tried, but we failed.
Yeah, and so we did so no favors.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't think we lasted a week.
I don't think we did. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure we did.
It was bad.
So yeah. That's why I was saying, like, we can't judge anybody on this, but
no judgment.
The question becomes, is this a good idea, right?
Yeah.
To go deeper and deeper and deeper into this.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we shared you before, like being in Wendy's space, there's a couple of things actually that introduced some tension for me.
Yeah.
There were some things that weren't quite worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Wendy had worked them out, but her people hadn't worked them out. You know what I'm saying? So phone's ringing and Wendy's like, pick up the phone. So I'm like, no, I'm not answering that phone because, okay, fine, I'll answer it. Hello? Click, right? And so, but every time Wendy answers the phone, there's someone there. Remarkable. And robocalls were not that big an issue back at that point. I'm just saying. So, but
always been an issue.
That introduced some real tension though, because I'm like, well, if it's all about me, then why is this fool still calling?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Well, if I hadn't been there, I wouldn't have got all the extra calls, all the ones, because there's a process from going to like dating to single.
Yeah.
And so when you live with somebody and you're going through the process with them, that's different, y'all. And so that created some tension, I believe. But it also, I think, from a financial standpoint, when you begin to like commit dollars and money and credit and all that stuff, it almost causes me to wonder, like, okay, why not be married at this point?
Yeah.
Right. What are we really doing if you're going all in and you're committing yourself in ways to somebody that can connect you? Like maybe not for life, but for a doggone a lot of it.
Yeah,
right?
Legally.
And so it's not necessarily about planning for your relationship to fail in terms of avoiding those things. The question is, if you're doing all that stuff, you got the kids, you got the car, you got the home. What about the part that seals all that together?
Yeah. In
terms of the marriage.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's interesting because we're sure you guys have heard people say, why buy the cow if you can get the milk for free? Or I mean, there was another one. That one came to mind, but this whole idea of playing house, right? Yeah. That we are going through all of the motions, we're doing all of the things that a married couple will do. However, for whatever reason, we've decided not to get married. And so then that brings up questions as to why not get married? What is preventing you from getting married? Because you certainly have committed so many things. And financial commitment is a huge commitment, or having children is a huge commitment, but it's almost like there's a B clause, like you're holding out the opportunity to be able to get out of it without going in deeper. I'm not really sure. But it brings up a whole bunch of questions around that, right? And so a lot of people will say, hey, we've just kind of been kicking it for 15 years and this works for us. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say this, and hey, you can take what it's worth, right? But until you're actually married, until there's that marital covenant, engagement, girlfriend, boyfriend, none of that means anything. There is, without a marital commitment, there is no commitment.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
Now, some of you would argue me down, like, no, I'm committed, blah, blah. Well, okay, if that's the case, in terms of what guides your behavior, your action, your decisions, your relationship, what guides it? Because there's nothing that guides a girlfriend-boyfriend arrangement. And so my thing is, we can talk about all the advantages, talk about the disadvantages, the things that you lose or gain. What you don't have is a covenant relationship and commitment that comes with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, for that matter, we could then start talking about all of the advantages of being married, right? I mean, because it's the marriage shop, we could take off on 20 minutes of why you should get married. Why, if you're in a situation and you're living with somebody, but you're not married yet, you should go ahead and get married. But that's not what we're going to do, because it's not a commercial for marriage. But what it is, I mean, it's not a commercial for it is not a commercial for marriage.
Okay, fine.
It's an open discussion about decisions, right? Everything fundamentally comes down to choices, right? The decisions that you make day to day and what consequences those decisions bring. And so what we, of course, want you to know is, marriage can be awesome, and marriage is covenant, and marriage can be strong, healthy, and thrive when it is truly recognized as a covenant, the covenant relationship that it is. All those things are true. But are we going to beat you over the head if you're living with someone right now and you have not yet committed to marriage? No, we're not. Nope. And that's not the point of the discussion. The point of the discussion is to talk about it, to get maybe some differing points of view, to dig a little bit deeper and get some perspective, right? And so one of the things that I think we talk about advantages and disadvantages, one of the things that you miss out on when you are just, okay, now we're all in and we're together, is that it's difficult to date when you're there all the time. Like getting dressed and, and getting ready to go somewhere is completely different. You don't get when somebody arrives to pick you up and there's a surprise because you look all fine and everything. Mm-hmm. It's just like, I watched the whole process. I saw how it was made. There's something about that.
You know what? I hadn't really thought about that one, mm-hmm. but there is something to the process. It's almost like you jump out of the process, right? Some people call it courting, dating, whatever, but you almost jump out of the process and mm-hmm. into something else, mm-hmm. right? And so there is something cool about the process.
Yeah.
Like when I went home a couple of times and came back.
Yeah, but going on a date, getting ready for that date, the anticipation, mm-hmm. The enjoyment, the missing you when you were gone, mm-hmm. Those things, you kind of condense that. And all of a sudden, and certainly we enjoyed the time that we did spend together, and mm-hmm. we spent a lot of time together. We spent so much time together that even when we were at work, we were together at work.
Sometimes
it was crazy.
It was crazy.
That was crazy. But that's kind of what we were operating in, right? Mm-hmm. But the question is, for you, what is it that you believe that you are gaining or losing by living with the person mm-hmm. that you are in a committed relationship with before you marry them? And then another question would be, what are you waiting for if marriage is on the table?
Yeah.
So if you're considering whether or not you want to move in with the person that you're dating, these are some things and some conversations you should have. That's probably really the mm-hmm. point of the conversation tonight.
Well, you absolutely have to have conversations about it, right? And I think that there's ways to have it, because you need to talk to each other, but you also and this is something I've found in my life, and I'm just being straight up transparent with y'all, right? Sometimes when I want what I want, I don't really talk to God about it. Mm. I just go. This feels right. This feels okay, and boom, I'm off, right? And so, because did I pray about my situation with Wendy? I did not. Mm. It's kind of like not asking your parents for something they're gonna say no to, so you just kind of do it. The whole is better to ask for forgiveness and permission perspective. That was my perspective, right? It was, I'm go over here, and I didn't even think about how long it's gonna be. I just knew I wasn't going home that night. And then, we go to church. We do some of the things that kind of have the trappings of the life we wanted to live, right? But I don't think we ever sat down and talked about it from that perspective. Like, what does God want us to do here in this situation?
Right.
I don't think we did that.
No, we didn't.
Yeah. So.
No, but I know that the things that you bring up create challenges for some people, specifically if you bring people around your mm-hmm. family, bring people around, take them to church, that if that relationship doesn't work out, mm-hmm. that then creates this strain and awkwardness about bringing other people into those same environments mm-hmm. in the future. And so, there's some things that should be reserved for marriage. But who are we to say which should be reserved for marriage? Just saying.
So hey, there. I want y'all to read this scripture, and some people, you know, this is kind of a tough one, right? It's Paul. He's we're in Corinthians, right?
Yeah.
And 1 Corinthians, chapter 7. This is verse 9. I'm gonna read some pieces of this to you, right?
Okay.
Because, you know, it's Paul, and he has a lot to say about Christian life and relationships.
Yes.
So, and this section. This is in the this is NIV, but this section is concerning married life, right? It says, for the matters you wrote about, it is good for a man not to have sexual relations with a woman, but since sexual immorality is occurring, each man should have sexual relations with his own wife, and each woman with her own husband. And then it goes on to talk about marital duties and all that. Which, in that part, I'm like, yeah, I'm with that. Let's talk about our marital duties in this area.
Yeah.
But there's a couple places in the Bible where the being married, it's like, well, you know, there's a lot of immorality wrapped around sex, right? So if you're going to have sex, you should be married, because marriage outside of sex is a problem.
Yes.
Spiritually, it's a problem, right? And so get married. And so I think I'm still in chapter 7. On verse 8, it says, now to the unmarried and the widows, I say it's good for them to stay unmarried, as I do. But if they cannot control themselves, they should marry, for it is better to marry than to burn with passion.
Yeah.
Burning with passion is hard, y'all. So that's kind of that's just a couple of little snippets from what the word has to say. And so as Christina alluded to earlier, a lot of the perspective people have about living together is really about this idea of temptation.
Yeah.
But it also goes much deeper in terms of, you know, how you commit yourselves financially, and who gets the dog, by the way, if this thing doesn't work out. People might, you know, people get dogs. You'll practice up with.
Yeah, well, it's property. I mean, it becomes joint property. So everything that you go forward with or that you acquire together technically is joint. But if you're doing all those things and you're not married, and so legally on paper you're not married, then it brings up other issues and situations that no one desires. For example, and you know, I'm a nurse, I got to go here. If the person that you're living with becomes ill, you have no say in their care.
That happens a lot.
Yeah. You have no say in what happens with them if they're unable to communicate on their own. So say they're in the ICU or in a coma, you have no say about what happens with them. If they have an advance directive or a living will and they identify you as the person, that's something different. But in most cases, general majority does not have that. No say. If they die, you have no rights or ownership to anything. It doesn't matter what was promised. It doesn't matter what you talked about. None of that, you know, is standing in those situations. And those are some very heartbreaking situations. But what it comes down to is that in those instances, your intent does not matter. And that's hard for people to live with. It's hard for people to grapple with, but that is the truth. And that occurs more often than we would like, because of course, each of us, as we're going through life, we don't really consider that this could end tragically. But I just wanted to throw that in there, because when you were talking about arguments about, well, we have all of the benefits, we're just kind of kicking it and doing our thing. There's some things that you're actually missing out on.
That is true. That's true. Yeah. And so I want to jump on some of these, because these comments are really, really good. So
can you go back up to Christina's second one? Because I know you talked about it, the finances, but we said we come back to it. I want to make sure I don't miss it. But did we say it?
Yeah. Well, did we say we're going to come back to that, or we're going to come back to
her second point? It was the second point.
The second point
she
was
had
about
1 and 2. Financially is not smart.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that.
Did we? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And so, but Timothy Jones said, a commitment is different than marriage, right?
Yes.
But
he also said being with a person in a relationship is different than living with someone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
okay.
but yeah, he's getting to this idea, right? You know, like we talked a little bit about commitment, right? Yeah, I'm with you. You know, you can trust me. I'm with you. It's us and whatever. Well, that ain't marriage.
Nope.
Right. There are some things that come along with that, and we getting there, right? But Christina Janae says, I think another big issue she's seen is with her generation, and the fact that people don't value the institution of marriage anymore. They literally say it's just a piece of paper. There's more. So I can't.
So
Can you
the
see the
bar
rest?
for real commitment is at ground zero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought that was like a continuation.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that's absolutely true. People do say it's a piece of paper, but in fact, it is not. Right. The relationship that you create is not somehow an expression of what's on that paper.
Right.
Right. That's something totally different. The paper is just it is what it is. Right. But a covenant without a real commitment to sticking to that between two people, it is about what the paper is written on. Right.
So say that again, because that's important.
Well, yeah. That covenant relationship that you have, right, without the commitment to that covenant, right? If you the marriage license you have or whatever it is you have, it's about where the paper is written on, without two people who are committed to joining this covenant, right, and staying in it.
Yeah. So, and then, Timothy went on to agree with Christina, the covenant of marriage is not valued the way it was back in the day. How much do you think social media plays a part in that?
Yeah.
Great question, right? I mean, social media plays a part in how we define relationships in general, not just the marital relationship. That's a great question. And I'd love for any of you that are on with us tonight to kind of speak to that. Vincentia Fraser Morris says, I'm an older woman and I was in a relationship with a man for 5 years and it was great. We got married and it turned to shiggity. Our marriage changed our relationship, not for the better. We are not together now, and the marriage lasted only 7 years, and the last 3 years of the marriage was a disaster. And that's an unfortunate situation. It's one of those things where, and I'm glad you bring it up, because we've also heard that, right? When we were together, but we weren't married, it was good. And there are a number of reasons for that, but it comes down to the two people, right? So we can't say, oh, well, what that was this. There's no blanket answer or a blanket way to address that.
Yeah.
But it does come down to expectations, right? And so there's this idea that when you get married, then fill in the blank, right? So this is what we're doing right now. But when we get married, these are the expectations that I have for when I'm married to you, which are different than the expectations that I have when I'm just living with you. But the intent of marriage is not to just have a living situation with a roommate. It is so much deeper and so much more than that.
Yeah, well, and I think maybe it's time to go ahead to kind of pivot into that point with regard to people kind of testing things out to see, what if you could return, let's say, an automobile in the same way you could return like a pair of socks to Walmart. How many more cars would you have in your life? I'm going somewhere with this. If you could just like turn your car back, like it's like, you know what, something, this ain't right. Something don't smell right. Something's not working.
Don't like the color,
I'm taking this back. Don't like the color.
It doesn't work.
This was good, last month, but this month I'm feeling convertible. Yeah. Last month I was feeling sedan. Right? How many more automobiles would you have? Right? There's something about in the beginning about saying, hey, this is it, and I'm gonna love this thing. A lot of us is taking some real hoopties and turn them into something special because we put the time into them. We put the love into them because it's like, listen, I spent everything I had. This is all I have. This is what it's got to be. Yeah. And I'm gonna make this work. And we I used to spend all night back in the day in the driveway just fixing and loving on my car. Right? I just love taking that thing apart, putting it back together. Yeah. It was mine. Frankly, if I could have just like turned it in and gotten another one, I may have done that instead. But instead, there was this commitment I had to just making this thing work because it's what I jumped all in and this was going to be it. Why do I bring it up with regard to marriage, right? Well, because a lot of times, if we don't commit, right, what we do a lot of times is we can sit back and we can look at things. It's like, you know what? If you don't get this dish situation together and start spinning those plates around, I don't know if this is going to work out. Right? Yeah. If you don't change something, I don't know if this is going to work. And the issue with that is that marriage is about forgiveness. It's about taking this person who is imperfect and saying, you know what, I love you anyway, because that's what Christ has done for us. And so I often talk about, loving your wife as Christ loved the church, as in like Ephesians 5:20, in 22 and on, in that section, right? What is that? What is being Christ-like? Well, being Christ-like is saying, hey, you know what? You're imperfect. I'm imperfect. I love you anyway. Yeah. And whatever your imperfection is, I'm all in on you. I'm committed to you. And I'm going to love you through all of that. Right? And so that's what, to me, it requires that early, because if you don't get that early, oftentimes what we do, if there's hesitancy, right, we will sit and we'll begin to watch all the things that we can't deal with.
Yeah. Well, and we make a list, right? And so then it becomes why versus, and I've heard people say, well, why not? But there should be compelling reasons. You should be all in. And it shouldn't be that it requires 15 years to figure it out. Now, that's not to say that that's not what it takes for some people. And, and we all know people who were married and their marriages didn't work out. We all know people who dated for a long time and then perhaps lived together and then were married for a long time. I mean, for every situation and scenario, there's probably someone that that's an example. What we do here in the Marriage Shop is to get you to think about your situation and then for you to have conversations about it, right? Our point and purpose is to spark conversation and discussion around something that maybe you haven't quite addressed just yet in your existing relationship. And perhaps there's an opportunity for you to come at it a different way. And so we're not here to judge. We're not here to say, well, here's the blueprint and this is the way that it needs to be followed. So this is what you get exactly. Because just like you were talking about baking a cake, I mean, you can have a recipe and you can have all the ingredients, but your cake may not taste like my cake. Just saying. I'm just saying. We going. It's all kinds of things. The temperature of the oven, the conditions, the environment, all of that. Look, because I said it won't taste like my cake. Don't laugh at that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But what I'm saying is, you don't just make a list of all of the things that are required and then just say, okay, we have all these things and this should just work. Because it's an unrealistic expectation. It takes more than just having all of the pieces. Is that better?
Well, no, that's fine. I think, it requires that you come together, you talk about it, but in all things, every time that we've sought God's guidance on something, we find ourselves positioned in where we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And we get out of our own way less, right? Yeah. So I think that's go in the obituary as their special friend. That's hilarious. But that's what it is. I mean, I think we've all seen that.
Yeah. And Timothy Jones, thank you for sharing that. He says, I gave my ex everything and started all over, and my fiance helped me build everything that we have today. That just an amazing and beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that. He said they in a situationship. That's good. Oh my goodness.
Boy.
So Lisa McNeil replying to Christina says facts. And that's if the family isn't petty. So because you may not be included at all. So good point. Good point. Is there something you?
No, I was just looking at her Christine Janae's previous statement about that, talking about people just not honoring marriage and be like, hey, get to that place where it's not what I thought it was going to be, so I'm out type thing. So
taking the first
common conversation.
Thank you for that, Antoinette, and then Vicentia, thank you. There is the expectations play a big role in whatever relationship you're in and whatever point within the relationship you're in. So that's good. And Timothy says you were invested in that car, time, energy, commitment, etc., just as we should be invested in marriage, invested in our relationship and marriages. Yes. Antoinette says, in the beginning, we are willing to please each other and we forget how to love and cherish each other. That's good. That's good. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Y'all dropping some good stuff in the chat.
Yeah, this is another great one. It's like, oh man, we need more time, right? Do you think this works for older couples? I would say, and I'm clearly, I mean, we're older than some couples, younger than many. But I think as it pertains to this idea of a relationship and marriage, what a lot of people, when I've spoken with older couples, a lot of the stuckness, if you, is that a word? People get stuck at what they're not going to give up, what they're not going to do, what they're unwilling to sacrifice, because I've seen this before. I've built too much. I've done too much. I've been in this too long to allow you to mess up what I have. Right. Interesting. I don't know if that speaks to anybody's situation that's listening, but there is sometimes a reluctance. So, hey, you know what? This is who I am. And so I'm not changing anything for you. Right. Well, whether you are starting out, brand new couple, 18 years old, or whether you are 50, 60, 70, for that marriage to work, it requires the same types of things. Yes. It requires a level of sacrifice. It requires, Timothy Jones put time, patience, understanding, sacrifice, grace. It requires that you not hold people to a standard of perfection that they cannot meet. And it also requires that you then forgive them for not meeting that expectation and not holding them to something that no human being can stand up to. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so I think those things hold true, because if you begin to talk to people about the challenges that they have in relationships, whether you're in your 70s, 60s, 20s, the challenges look real similar.
It's true. It's true. And the process is similar, right? You have two people who are coming from two different backgrounds who are now coming together to forge something new. And it requires that they are both committed to it, regardless of what they endure, what life brings, and how their expectations may not be met. It's why communication is so important before you get married and from the day you get married until the day that you're no longer living. Clear, open communication, yes, talking, but about your expectations of what it is and what it will be, about your hopes, about your dreams, having all those conversations in the midst of it. So it's not, this is what we talked about before we met, and now for the next 25 years, I'm going to remind you of what you said week 2, hour 3, when we were at the restaurant down the street. Yeah. I mean, things change and we have to be willing to change and grow with it. And so I thank all of you for all of your comments tonight. And I want to mention Rella's comment, because Timothy Jones had asked about social media, and she says, social media is highly influential. If you're not careful, you'll get caught up and start focusing on everything you don't have in the relationship based on what you see on social media. We tend to forget that what we see is the filtered, photoshopped version. And so, thank you for that. That's good.
Well,
that's good.
Well, there's another piece, right? So you get that filtered Photoshop thing, like, oh, everything's great. Like, oh, those pictures were amazing, right? The relationship behind those isn't always amazing. Yeah. But there's also there's so much advice and so many people with opinions. And that's why it's important to yourself kind of pull back. Yeah. And decide, what is it that I believe here about marriage, right? And again, we use the Bible as kind of this foundational document in terms of how we relate and how we behave toward other people, and certainly toward each other. And so that kind of gives us that barometer, right? Yeah. How close or far we are from that standard. Without that standard, it becomes kind of a problem. And there are people out there just throwing all kinds of garbage out there just based on what they think, how they feel. Yeah. Sometimes how you feel is not the best indicator of what you need to do or what you need to say. Yeah. And so, Vicentia. Like, not changing. Is that wrong? If change is required in a moment, maybe it's wrong not to change. Now, Tim Jones kind of alluded to that, that I have a way, it's my way, this is the way. Yes. Maybe your way is not the way.
And the beauty of it, right, coming together is finding your way together, right? So it's not just like this perfect mix and it's 50-50. That's not it. But everything that your marriage or your relationship has to be the product of what you both put into it, right? And so you kind of mentioned it when you said it can't be one that's committed and one that's not as committed. But we have to know going in that it is what both of us put into it that really creates what we have. And so whatever it is that we have to be able to reflect on, well, how much was I giving to that? How much did I contribute to that? And not so much pointing the finger at how much somebody else didn't do or what they did do or all of that. We're not keeping score. And I think the more that you talk, the more that you're open, the more that you research, and the more that you learn, the better you are. And there is a beauty and a reward to learning and growing together, right? And that really should be the goal. So we could talk about this forever, but our time is up.
Is it?
Our time is up.
Okay.
And so thank you guys for all of your comments, and you can keep them coming. You know, we go through and we respond to you. If you have any questions and you want to send them to us directly, you can always message us in the Marriage Shop, and we try to get to those. We're going to pick up talking to the singles again on the second Monday of next month. And we're always glad when you can join us in the Marriage Shop. And so there are a couple of ones. I'm going to read these last comments as
Get
we're
them in there.
out.
Get them.
Yes. So the Cynthia says, key point, they both have to be committed. Can't have one going one way, this way, and the other going another. And I mentioned that. Ron Harvey says, age is just a number. You still have to do the hard work.
Yep.
The work can get harder as you get older. That's true. And Lisa McNeil says, for the record, your relationship should look Photoshop-ish on social media, or don't discuss it at all. You shouldn't air your dirty laundry on social media, but don't portray a lie either. Silence is always an option, right? Yeah. You're not obligated to post. I love that. Timothy Jones, growing together. Yes, I probably should put that on a t-shirt. So thank you guys for being here with us. And you know, we appreciate you. We appreciate your prayers. And as my father-in-law would say, the Lord willing, we will be back on Monday at 7. So we hope that you meet us here and join us in the Marriage Shop. Your
father-in-law would say that. So
yep.
Anyway, so hey, so we're gonna pray for you all tonight, if you don't mind.
Yep.
All right. Heavenly Father, we just come tonight just thanking you. Thank you for our ability to return to this forum, this platform, and for everyone who is joining us. We just ask you to help us to seek you in everything that we do, and that everything we do be pleasing in your sight. We ask that that our relationships, our marriages, either current or future, are just an amazing display of your love, your grace for us. So we just ask you to help us all to be more like you in everything we do. We ask you to bless every home, every person here, every family represented. We'll be sure to give you all the honor, the glory, and the praise. We pray these and other blessings in your name. Amen.
Amen.
So you all, hey, I put the link in the chat or whatever. So y'all go check out the Marriage Shop, grab a t-shirt, rock those. Hey, they draw a lot of attention though. We tested them. Lots of attention.
Yes.
Appreciate you all. All right. Love you much.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. It's your boy JC. I'm in the mood, love. Lately I've been constantly thinking about you, babe. You drive me crazy, yeah. And girl, I want this. Got me all up in my feelings. Oh, what a feeling, yeah. I knew the first time I laid eyes on you that you would be here forever. I'm not being arrogant, and I still can't take my eyes off you. 'Cause you made me better, so much better. I'm in the mood to love you for a lifetime. I'm in the mood yeah. I love your kindness. I love your confidence. Ooh, you're the finest. So glad you're mine, yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't wanna be with nobody else. Give me your love, that's all the wealth I need. Baby, you're priceless to me, yeah. To love you for a lifetime, I'm in the mood to love you for a lifetime, yeah. Whoa. Promise I'ma be around. I'ma always hold you down. Won't you come and hold me now? Won't you come and hold me now? I just got a new coupe. Yeah, I know I got a roof, but I always keep it down with you. Yeah, and I know they see, girl, you're my queen. And beauty speaks for itself, loud and clear. Yeah, so throw it in the air. It's the sweetest sound to follow my ear. And I want the world to know I'll love you forever. And that's a long time, babe. But I got time for